Hi, I'm Glenn Ong and I'm a presenter on 1FM 91.3. I do the morning show with the Flying Dutchman, Monday to Friday, 6 to 10 a.m. Oh, I was a nerdy kid, but I was a spoiled kid. My cousins used to tell me that I was just this nightmare of a kid. I would just go around destroying all their things, their toys, especially the toys my mom wouldn't get me, but they had. So yeah, you have a rough idea of what a brat I was. I wanted to be a lawyer, right? But I also wanted to be a flight steward.
Quite different.
I know. So the thing here is that I actually went down for the interview at SIA and failed the interview. This after a recommendation from a few family members who are cabin crew, by the way. So I really felt like a failure, you know. I actually wanted to be a lawyer. Can you believe it? An uncle of mine said, you know, Glenn, maybe you should just try out being a radio presenter because, you know, you've got a pretty nice voice. So I'm like, nah. He's like, tell you what, just read this article. I have a friend working at the Singapore Broadcasting Corporation. Record it on a cassette, pass it to me, and I'll pass it to her. I did it, they called me back, and the rest, like they say, is history. Mark Richmond at that time, who was one of my mentors, came down with a sore throat. In fact, he had lost his voice completely. And so they gave me a call. I remember, Glenn, we need you to make your debut this evening because Mark has lost his voice. I'm like, oh my God. And so I rushed down an hour before airtime. And I remember talking to Mark and he was just gesturing and eventually he wrote a few things down and I said, okay, I need to script my talk sets. And so I remember jotting down all my talk sets and just reading it off the first time I went on air. But it was quite a thrill, I have to say. But eventually I just felt like, you know, as far as radio is concerned, it's best to be spontaneous. And these days, yeah, I don't script anymore. Pro these days. I think the Glenn from maybe 10 years ago is very different from the Glenn now. I think the Glenn now has mellowed a little bit. You know, the controversial Glenn is definitely more interesting. You know, I like stirring shit sometimes. I like playing the bad boy. You know, it's always more fun being bad than being good. I think the real Glenn is this Glenn over here. You know, pretty down to earth and practical. You know, I know how to get into trouble for my benefit and for the benefit of the show, and I also know you know how to just stay out of trouble. I don't know if you get exactly what I'm talking about, but the real Glenn is really not that bad. I think it's a very, very different business from let's say 3 decades ago, where you know you're just in a small little studio and you know you're just talking to your listeners. Now your listeners see you all the time. So yeah.
So does it mean now you have to dress up for work?
No, not me. This is still me. Of course, I don't come to work in my station t-shirt all the time. This is just for you guys. You know, so our day starts at 3:45. Me and my team were in the studio by 4:55, 5 a.m. And that's when we do our final prep. Just before we sleep, we submit our stories, and then when we come in the morning, we choose the stories that we want to do, you know, on air. And so we're in the studio at 5, and we leave at around noon. So that may not seem very long for a lot of people, but you know, when you're up that early and you're talking for 4 hours, it seems like an 8-hour day already. Is it 8 hours? In fact,
actually, 5 to noon is, yeah.
It is around there already, you know. I think, you know what, the biggest perk for me is that I really enjoy what I do, you know, and having done it for 25 years now. I think I've met a lot of people over the years. A lot of people who have grown up, listening to me. So I think the biggest perk is that, I enjoy what I do. And, when I go out there, people come up to me and tell me they listen to me. That makes me really happy. That was part of the assessment when I first joined radio years ago. I had to go through like a music test. So there were like 150 questions, music related.
What sort?
Things like, they would play a song, for example. Baby, I'm a Want You. Who sang that song? And you would go like, okay, Bread. David Gates and Bread. Things like that, So I had to go through that. I had to go through a voice test, a reading test. So a whole bunch of tests at that time, which I don't think we have anymore. So maybe you might like to introduce that. Right, it just used to be FD and myself before, but right now I have Andre and Sean, our producers, joining us. So it feels like a family. There's never a dull moment. The moment we come into the studio, we work as a team, right? When it was just FD and myself, sometimes that would be quiet moments throughout the 4 hours, but right now we kill ourselves sometimes. We joke and we laugh throughout, and so it's a better vibe, I feel. More energy in the morning, and it's more fun. The most challenging part of the job is trying to please the bosses. This has been the case all these years. Radio bosses have to understand that the moment the mic is on, you go for it. You can't please everyone. Right? You have a few 100,000 people listening to you at a go. I mean, we're thankful for our listeners, yes. But if we were to listen to every single person, every single time, then it's going to be very hard for the radio presenters to do their job. You have to trust the radio presenters that they know what they're doing. They don't want to get themselves into trouble, right? And all they want is to make the radio show a little bit more interesting, because if everyone is going to be following the rules, so to speak, and being politically correct, then it's just not going to be interesting. The first step is obviously to send in a demo tape. I think what's important is that you sound comfortable, because that's what's going to be coming out of the radio, your voice, right? So you don't have to have like the best voice in the world, but you've got to sound comfortable on air. And bearing in mind that it's very different the moment you go into the studio and there are 100 buttons in front of you, the panel, switching on the mic, and when your mind is thinking of so many things, sometimes your words can't come out properly. So if you're comfortable with that, anyone who's comfortable with that, I don't think it'll be a problem, especially if you've got a sparkling personality, even better, So I think it's a dying trade, right? I don't know if a lot of people realize this, but I think radio presenting is a dying trade, and we always need people coming forward, right? So if you think you have what it takes, send me a demo tape. I'll pass it to my boss. Looking forward to working with more people in radio. I think we need more people in the industry.
Oh my God! That's an NG right there.